Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to my channel where I talk about how to heal chronic illnesses, especially fatigue illnesses, through deep emotional healing. Healing of these deep core wounds that we usually don't even know are there, or if we do, we know that they're there in some vague way, some far vague way, because of things that we remember. But so many of us, especially people who tend to internalize things from the external world, can have really, really deep wounds that we're not even conscious of that stem from early childhood. And the first few years of life are so crucial. Psychologists have been talking about this for decades, but now it's like popular culture that is understanding that we all have wounding. We all have wounding from our childhood. That is our responsibility to go back when we're adults and we develop adult resources, particularly emotional resources and nervous system regulation resources, knowledge and understanding of how to regulate our emotions and how to look in them and how to heal them. These are skills that we have to be adults to learn. Today, I'm talking about the box that we put ourselves in when we have trauma, early life trauma, and wounding that is embedded deep in the body and in our unconscious that manifests in more ways than the physical illness. That shows up in interpersonal dynamics, in the way that we come into the world, in the way that we interact with people around us. And today I want to speak to this feeling of being in a cage or a box. I don't know about you, but if I look back over my adult life and adolescence as well, I have this visceral sense, and it took me a long time to put words to what is that feeling that I'm feeling. It was being in a cage, being in a box. And I don't know if you can relate to this, but this is related to chronic illness because think of all the ways that an illness puts you in a box and puts you in a cage and makes all these rules of the ways, oh, this is the way that you have to function now because of your illness. And this is, all these other things you can't do anymore. Well, what I have found is that is an energetic manifestation, that illness, and those rules are true. I can't eat all these things anymore. I can't do all these things anymore. I can't go do intense aerobic exercise. Well, I couldn't. When I had severe adrenal fatigue, you can't go out and do physical exercise. Anything intense, that's for sure. You can't lift weights. You can't pick up heavy things. You can't exert yourself. You can't eat processed food. There are all kinds of things, and it often comes with digestive problems and a lot of times food sensitivity. So you can't do that. Then it comes also with chemical sensitivities a lot of times. So you can't be around those smells. You can't be around those chemicals. You can't wear those perfumes. I can't be around you. I can't use this detergent. I have to do this. I can't do this. I have to do this. Those things are true. When you have an illness like this, and I'm just using adrenal fatigue as an example, there are all kinds of things. And it's wonderful when you learn these things because it's like, oh my God, this is what's been making me miserable. Like one of the things for me is I have an oxalate sensitivity in foods. When I learned that, I was having extreme physical pain from eating oxalates, and it took me so long to figure out what it was. What is causing this pain? And through my research and investigation, I had seen stuff about a low oxalate diet for a long time, but I just never tried it because it's a pain in the butt, let me tell you. But a lot of these restrictive diets are. And I had already done a bunch, and I was like, oh my God, another one. Can I really take on another one? To learn all the things that you can and cannot eat. But I tried it, and the pain, it didn't go away, but it almost vanished. And now if I keep on the low oxalate diet, the pain stays away for the most part. So I'm on this very restrictive diet. I'm in a box, but it's like a liberating box because it's like, oh, thank God. Like I'm out of that pain. I'm out of that daily pain, the pain in my muscles, the excruciating pain in my muscles. And so it's like, oh my God, thank God I'm free from that pain. So the restriction creates freedom in a lot of ways. That's the mindset that I have shifted to over many years of just feeling like a victim and being like, this sucks, my life sucks, and I'm just being restricted, and I can't do anything, But that's the mindset I have now. It's like, oh, thank God, this restriction gives me freedom. I'm free. I'm free of that pain, and I know exactly what I can and can't eat. I don't have to worry about my waistline anymore because I cannot eat any of those things that I used to binge on. So it's like all of a sudden I have this freedom, but it's from restriction. And isn't that interesting? I've talked about on this channel about one of the ways that we go and find the wound that's associated with the physical symptom is by making metaphors and thinking in this metaphorical way all the time, symbolic way, thinking of symbols, thinking of metaphor. So when you think about that, isn't it interesting to think about, well, what would that mean in the rest of my life? That I have all these areas that I have to be in a box, that I'm being forced in a box is what it feels like. And you are. These illnesses forced you in a box in one way or the other. You might be literally in a box in your room. You might be in the literal box of your house because you're housebound. You might be in the square or the rectangle of your bed because you are bedbound. You are literally being confined in a box. But if you think about, if you believe like I believe in the law of attraction and in that the physical is a manifestation of the energetic, because that is what my experience has taught me again and 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 again over my healing journey in my life before that, I just didn't realize it, was that the stuff that's happening to you, to us, is the physical external manifestation of the energetic wounds and resulting beliefs that we have. This is law of attraction stuff if you're familiar with it. But my God, is it true? Especially for people who are energetically sensitive, highly sensitive people, empaths, introverts a lot of times, people who internalize stuff. People who are internalizers are the ones that this seems to be even more, it's true for everyone, but it's more profound because we're internalizing so much, and we internalize so much as children. Internalizers tend to be more prone to deep wounding because they're internalizing the things. They're internalizing the things that they're picking up in their caregivers and attachment insecurities, attachment errors, attachment wounds, picking up on these things and turning it in on yourself and say, oh, there's something wrong with me. It's my fault. And if I'm just good enough, then I'll get more love, or I'll get a more secure. I won't feel this never knowing what the emotional safety situation is in this moment. It's like hypervigilance that we get. If I can just get good enough and do all the right things, maybe that'll stop and I'll feel safe. And that tends to be how internalizers work. And so when we're internalizers, it's sort of harder to see because we internalize so much. It's harder to see sometimes that the external world is actually reflecting the internal beliefs that we have, and the beliefs come from wounds. I'm not a big fan of focusing on cognitive, thought shifting stuff because while that's helpful, the thoughts are being created by a belief, and the belief was created because of a wound. And so just shifting the thoughts, shifting the thoughts again and again and again, you're on a hamster wheel because they're attached to the beliefs and the beliefs are attached to a wound. And so in my view, you've got to go to the belief. What's the core belief? Then what wound did that come from? And once you heal that wound, you can change your beliefs easily. And when you change the beliefs easily, those thoughts, you can recognize those thoughts and be like, oh my gosh, I think that way. I can shift that thought. And then it doesn't come back. It might be a habit that you have to shift, but that's easy, relatively. It's not possible to shift thought patterns that are connected to a core wound. It doesn't work. But back to what I was saying about the external world, it's like reflecting this box. What I'm trying to explain is this way that we are being put in a box because us being put in a box through our illness is a physical and external manifestation of our core belief that that's where safety is. That being in a box is where safety is. That's where we are safe. Now, none of us want to be put in these external boxes by illnesses. It sucks. Other kinds of boxes where you can't do this, you never make enough money, for example. You're always impoverished. You're barely scraping by all the time. That's another kind of box. Getting into relationships where you just can never get your needs met. That's another kind of box. All these ways that we are being placed in boxes. And there's this way that we hate it and we feel like we're a victim, which is natural because it comes from a core wound. We all feel like victims when it's touching a core wound. And there's an inner child who is still a victim because she hasn't been seen and felt yet. We feel like a victim, but there is a part of us, an unconscious part of us, that also feels safest there. feels safest. Like this is what's familiar, actually. It's familiar to be in a box. We are not, and please understand me, we are not putting ourselves in the box. It is not our fault that we are in these boxes at all. What I'm saying is we have these boxes because of the wounding. And it's a particular type of wounding that creates a belief that we are safest when we do all these things. If we do all the right things, like I was saying earlier, if we do all the right things, I'll get the most love. I'll feel the most safety. It'll be the best that I can do. And so I'm going to put myself in these boxes, not physical boxes that happens in the illness, but it's the emotional boxes and the interpersonal boxes. Like if I'm this way. So for me, it was all people pleasing. So it's like, if I'm just the sweetest, most passive, most agreeable, most pleasant person to be around as possible, I'll be good. I mean, I'll be good. I'll make sure that I'm intelligent and I look nice and I smile all the time and I'm sweet and I cater to everybody else's needs. And it's like that was my managerial style. That was my coping mechanism. That was the way that I decided was the best strategy for me. I was good at pleasing people naturally, and so I just took that. That was my strategy, and it worked really well. If you're familiar with internal family systems, these are our managers. We've got managers who are keeping our wounds protected by developing these strategies to keep us safe, to keep those wounds from being touched. And so my strategy was be as pleasing as effing possible, almost to the threat level. It's like, you have to be pleasing or life's not okay. You are not safe. That was the belief that I came up with. Well, as you can imagine, those kinds of beliefs can manifest in multiple ways, not just in an illness. In love relationships, in all kinds of interpersonal relationships, in my ability to accomplish in the world, go out there and be self-empowered and strong. You have to step on some toes if you're going to do that. Well, if your only goal is to please everyone, that's not going to go. My managers are not going to allow me to go up there. That is danger, danger, danger. And any idea that I would be different is like, I could never do that. I could never go do that. I could never do that. I can't. No, I can't do that. I can't do that. If you hear yourself saying stuff like, I can't do that. I could never do that. Oh my God, I would die. I would die. We use these expressions, but it's like, well, actually, there's truth to that. Your inner child believes that she would die. There's a chance that she would die if you go out and do that. For me, it's public speaking. Public speaking was the place that I was going to die because I couldn't control the circumstances and the fear of being rejected was just too great. I was being center of attention. I would be the authority. No, I give the authority to everybody else. Everybody else knows better than me, always. And so if the attention's on me and I'm supposed to be the expert, it's like death to inner child is how it feels. And that freeze response of the nervous system is what kicks in. When you have early life stuff where your child self believes something is going to be life-threatening, your freeze response kicks in, and that's when you get a physical symptom. So this physical manifestation is you are being put in a box by this illness. This illness is putting you in a box. I think I've said that enough times to make it clear that this illness is putting you in a box. There are things you can and cannot do. One way to look at that is, I wonder if I have a belief that there are ways that I can and cannot be in the world. And I've made these rules about myself because that's where I feel safest, or safe, period. This is a pretty universal phenomenon for people who have experienced early life deep wounding and trauma, that we develop these strategies of ways that we have to be to get the most safety. But what that strategy is can look like countless things. My strategy was people pleasing, and that is a common one, but there are lots of others. Being powerful and just being like, you know what? I'm the only one I can trust. I'm going to go out there and I can do it. I can't depend on anybody. I have to take care of myself, and that's it. Nobody's coming to save me. Nobody's out there for me, and I have to go out and get that for myself. That's sort of an opposite. Instead of developing things that sort of make you powerless and retreat, you're developing strategies to make you go forward and are powerful. I have to become powerful, and that can have its own box and rules of the ways that you can and cannot be in the world. That belief. I wanted to explain this because this is one example of how we can use metaphor to identify the belief that is causing that physical reality. And it is. That is a physical reality. But the beliefs are so freaking strong. It's like it doesn't matter that we can't see them and we can't touch them. It doesn't matter. The beliefs are some of the strongest energies in our lives. They are so much stronger than our physical. The beliefs that we have are impacting everything. And so part of the process of healing chronic illness is identifying those beliefs. What are my core beliefs that have stemmed from wounds? So separating out, what are the beliefs that empower me? What are the beliefs that disempower me? What are the beliefs that are causing problems in my relationships? What are the beliefs that are causing problems in my career, my relationship with work and with career and with finances? And how are the beliefs creating the physical illness? How are the beliefs? So we've got to identify what is the belief, because the belief will lead to the wound. The belief is the connecting bit between our thoughts and the wound. And thoughts are energy as well. All these things, wounds, beliefs, and thoughts are all energies. And these are some of the strongest forces in our lives. I mean, think about that. They are so strong. These three things combined and the cascade that happens as a result, for that to have such a profound, for that to be able to turn into a physical illness and change physical reality, they have to be extremely strong forces, more forceful than we are currently in our culture giving anywhere close to enough credit for. And yes, learning about the law of attraction, everything is great, and that's becoming more popular. But I really want to emphasize the fact that because the law of attraction worked, that doesn't mean that you can just change your thoughts and change your beliefs because you realize that your thoughts and beliefs are that way. When you have deep core wounds from your early development, you can't just shift those things just because you realize it. That is an important step, is to witness it and acknowledge, oh my God, this is the belief I have. And these thoughts, these endless, these running thoughts, these ruminating thoughts, and this particular vein of thoughts that I'm having that are really disempowering is actually connected to this belief. That realization is so crucial because that belief, once you have the belief, you can start to deduce what the wound could be. And this is a really important cognitive piece of healing trauma to heal a chronic illness. Because it's deep in our unconscious, that's why it's in our bodies. We're dissociated from it. Again, that's why it's in our bodies. These parts of ourselves that we have discarded unconsciously, and these parts of our child selves who have not been seen yet and felt and loved are screaming at this point to try to get our attention because he or she doesn't have another way of getting our attention. It's a really good way of getting our attention by creating problems in our lives, one of which is physical symptoms. This is really speaking to those old wounds that are pre-verbal, the things that happened to us and inside of us before the age of 3, maybe 5. But this is pre-verbal stuff because pre-verbal tends to be when wounding shows up by the freeze state. And sympathetic response tends to be in post-verbal wounding. I can't say that that's always true, but I have found it to be true thus far, but I can't say it's always true. But in my experience, it seems to be that is. So when we have physical illnesses, that tends to be the freeze state. Now we can have illnesses like adrenal fatigue is a lot about fight or flight. There's wounding there that is associated with the sympathetic nervous system, but there are also wounds in our root chakra that might be in the freeze state. So when we have chronic symptoms, chronic fatigue is definitely the freeze state. It is like all freeze state. So we're talking about wounds that are from our pre-verbal days when we were really young. And when we were pre-verbal, the memories are really fuzzy, if at all. And you have to get there with like hypnosis or by working like this. You might not get the memory, but you will be able to access the emotion. And so this is how we have to work with our bodies in this backwards way from our thoughts to our beliefs to our wounds, because the wounds are in our unconscious and often from our very early days that we don't remember. We don't have memories of certain interpersonal interactions that may have happened when we were a little baby. So how are we supposed to find it? This is how. So I wanted to explain that idea of the belief, and this has been, a focus of mine for a long time, but it was reignited recently because I had COVID. I was quarantined for like 12 days and I'm just getting out of it, which is why it's been so long since my last video. I'm so sorry. But I was talking about my relationship to my sister and I was in a very upset state and I was just feeling exasperated and I felt like there were all these things I was trying so hard to do all the things just right and it just wasn't shifting. And I was making all these rules about the ways I have to be and can't be. And my sister had said this brilliant thing to me and it was this huge aha moment. And she said, well, Nip, we call each other Nip. She said, Nip, I think the real question is, why do you feel so comfortable in a box? And I was like, oh my God, you're right. I'm not only putting myself in a box in the way that I come at relationships, like in a profound way, like a really tight box. I feel safe there. I'm comfortable. But what was so funny is that I was sick with COVID at the time and I was quarantined to literally a box. Just a couple days before, I had this thought because I was having a great time. My symptoms weren't terrible. All of a sudden, I was told that I have to stay in a box, the box of the room. And I loved it. It's like, I don't have any responsibilities for a few days. I can do whatever I want. I can just take care of myself. I don't have to take care of everybody else's emotions. I don't have to cater to everybody else's needs. I can just do myself. I can just be myself and just take care of myself. And it's so freeing. And this is what I'm talking about. So as she asked me that, I'm literally sitting in a box that I had been in for a week. And I had realized I was so comfortable there. And I had that thought a couple days earlier, like, most people complain about being stuck in a room for 11 days. Why am I so comfortable with it? Why am I so happy in this box? And I knew the reason is because I feel safe and it allows me to release these rules that I force onto myself about the ways I have to be in interpersonal relationships. It's just so amazing that she said that in that moment because we were talking at the same time. I'm sitting in a physical box and I'm comfortable there. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you. Brilliant, brilliant observation and question. Why am I so comfortable in this box? Because it's true, I am. I am so comfortable in a box in multiple ways as I'm explaining on this video. And I thought for a couple days after that, I just thought nonstop about that. Because I'm at this place in my healing that I'm like, the question now is, do I want to stay in that box? Now that I've seen that I place myself in boxes and I'm comfortable there. But the reason I'm comfortable, I know, is because of that core belief that when I'm in a box, I'm safe. I'm safe in a box. The box that I create, not any old box. And that's why we don't like the illness, because the illness is creating a box that we didn't choose. We're being placed in a box that is somebody, like our body's choosing it, that somebody else is choosing. We don't like that. We feel comfortable in the box that we create, the rules that we create. And I know that that's true for me. That's the reason I'm comfortable being quarantined. And that's why I'm comfortable, even though I'm so distressed in the relationship that I'm placing myself in these boxes. I'm not happy in that situation. It's very frustrating. And yet I won't relinquish myself from that box. But this realization and that connection of I'm placing myself in the box in these interpersonal ways. And the reason I'm unhappy is because I'm in that box. But the box came from these beliefs and this core wounding. So the question now is, do I want to stay in that box? Because all this healing that we do around safety and love and self-love as we're healing, we're doing all this work of developing self-love and safety in our bodies and safety in our sense of self, our sense of security and consistency in ourselves and safety in the world. This is what we're working on, like root chakra wounds, sacral chakra wounds. That's where we are. When we're doing all this work, and it's been 3 years I've been doing this work. The question is, do I feel safe enough to move out of that box? Am I at this point where I can hold this tension and this relationship between pushing the boundaries of my box out while still enabling myself to feel safe in my body? Because I've worked so hard at cultivating that through this illness and through the process of healing these wounds. Do I want to stay in that box? And the answer is no. I don't want to stay in that box anymore. And I'm finally at a place in my healing journey where I feel like, and I share this in case this resonates for you, that you can relate to this, where I'm in this place where I'm finally feeling like I can hold safety and space, emotional space for myself and send myself love when I need it, that I can start changing the boundaries of that box. It'd be great to say I could just relinquish the box altogether, but I know that's not realistic. You start changing the boundaries of that box, maybe taking one side of it down. I mean, I'm losing the metaphor in my mind. You start expanding and changing that box. I'm ready to do that, which is really exciting. But it's challenging because we are so patterned to do the things that we've always done to keep ourselves running within those lanes, keep myself in the lanes that I've created because of the belief, the way that I have to be in order to be loved and safe. That's really scary. And then to figure out, what does that actually mean? Because you only have this one reality. What does that actually mean to get out of the box? What could that actually look like? So it takes some cognitive work and listening to people of like, so what is the dynamic that should be here? And like, what is reasonable to ask for? Being able to realize that when you push on the boundaries of that box, the rules, and you don't follow your own rules anymore, that safety stuff, that root chakra stuff is going to come rearing up. And so you've got to have stuff in place, the tools that I talk about on this channel of what to do and how to be there for yourself, and yet continue to go on that path of, no, we're going this way. I'm here for you. And I see that you're scared, and I know you're allowed to be scared. And we can feel the fear. We can shake, we can scream, but then we continue and like, you know what, but we've got this. I'm here for you, and I see you, and I feel your feelings, but I'm also protecting you at the same time, and we're going to move forward with this. To me, this healing journey has been this spot that I'm in right now, again and again and again and again and again. Because as you heal, the boundaries of the boxes are always changing, and you're always trying to inch your way, expanding the box a little more. It used to feel like a cage to me, like a bird cage. Like it was so small, it always felt like a cage. And I had no idea that it was rules that I had placed on myself. I look back at my college days and I just think, oh, just so much compassion for her. She just didn't know. And she felt like she was in a cage, and she was so miserable and depressed, deeply depressed, and did not realizing that the reason that is because I had all these rules, and they came from wounding. They came from beliefs, and the beliefs came from wounding. And the place to go with that is to go to the wounding. But I'm going to be honest, I could not have figured out what the wounds were in order to heal them. Even through talk therapy, I couldn't have figured it out, except for this illness. This illness is what started pointing me to them. I mean, I hope this is helpful. I'm trying to explain this and be really clear about it. And there's definitely no blame. This is all coming from wounding. And so bringing compassion to whatever you find are your boxes, your beliefs, the beliefs that you have about yourself and the world. Every single one of them has to be met with compassion, because every single one of them comes from wound. If it's a disempowering belief, it comes from pain. And it's a child who's in pain, and she's still in pain, and because she needs you to be there for her to work through that pain and feel that pain and be loved through that pain in order to heal it. Every time we develop a belief that is disempowering or, in contrast to what we consciously think as adults, lots of things can come up. Shame can come up, self-beratement, self-hatred, all these things can come up. So to recognize that anytime you find a belief, to realize that that came from a wound, and it was a natural and logical response to that pain. The problem was not that you made this belief. It's not your fault that you made this belief. You had pain that was too much for you to deal with in those child years. It was for you to feel and be stuck in all the time. You had to do something. All we're doing in those years is trying to protect ourselves, trying to feel safe, trying to feel loved and safe. And so we do whatever we have to, and we make these beliefs. It's a natural thing. We all make beliefs about how the world is based on the information. It's just evidence-based reality. We're just making conclusions based on evidence as children. And so there's no fault. There's no blame. Developing this new belief is the key, that every limiting and disempowering belief that I have is coming from pain. And the answer isn't to berate myself about the belief or shame myself about the belief or try to shift the belief, just like yank it out of there. It's to go to the pain. So that's what we're doing on this journey, right? That's what we're talking about on this channel. So I hope that was helpful for a sort of conceptual model of what we're doing. If you would like to work with me, because this stuff can be so hard to do by yourself, It's so helpful and so much easier. I wish I had had someone to do this with, but I love this stuff. I think it's exciting and thought-provoking and really fascinating to make these connections and use our intuition to find out what the beliefs are, what the wound is, how to get there, and to develop these skills to regulate yourself when the emotion comes up, to heal it and love it. So if you and I were to work together, one of the things that we would do is identify wounds and the patterns that are leading to the wounds that are manifesting as your physical symptoms. And then another thing we would do is develop the tools that you need to self-regulate, because when we have trauma and wounding, we often don't have those skills. We need tools as adults to work with our body to self-regulate when big emotion comes up, how to access that emotion, how to create the space that is safe for the emotion to come up. So these are all big things that we talk about, other things too, but these are big things that we would do together to talk about your individual illness, symptoms, beliefs, blocks. Working one-on-one is catered to your specific needs, where you are in the journey and what is going to be helpful for you next to be working on to do this healing work and heal your symptoms and illness. If you would like to work with me, my email address is down below. Please send me an email. I'm still working on my website, so that'll be up hopefully very soon. But email me down below and we'll have a get to know you call and then see if you want to work with me. I hope you all are doing wonderfully out there on your healing journey. I'm wishing you all the best. If you like this video, push that like button, subscribe to my channel, share the video online if you think it might be helpful for somebody else. And I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day. I will see you on the next video. Bye.